The city of New Shanghai burned under an alien sky. Maya Chen stood at the window of her apartment on the 92nd floor. She was 8 years old. Through the glass, she watched fire fall from the heavens like rain. The golden sun of Kepler Prime had disappeared behind clouds of smoke and ash. Her mother held her tight, so tight it hurt. Her father was somewhere in the city below, trying to reach them. He would never arrive. Terra Nova was humanity's proudest achievement. 800 million people called this world home. They had built cities that touched the clouds. They had planted forests and filled oceans. They had created a paradise in the stars. For 200 years, humans had lived here in peace. The Vorthax Dominion ended that peace in 6 hours. The attack came without warning. One moment, children played in parks and workers filled the streets. The next moment, Vorthax warships appeared in orbit. They numbered in the thousands. Their weapons began firing before any human ship could respond. Orbital bombardment was forbidden by galactic law. The Vorthax did not care about galactic law. They cared only about sending a message. Humanity had refused to give them mining rights in the outer colonies. Humanity had dared to say no to the Dominion. This was their answer. The plasma strikes hit the major cities first. New Shanghai Pacifica, Novgorod Prime, Alexandria Station. Each strike turned 1 million people to ash in an instant. The ground shook so hard that buildings collapsed. The air became poison. The sky turned black and orange with death. Maya's mother pulled her away from the window. They ran for the emergency shelter in the basement. They never made it past the lobby. The second strike hit their district, and the world became white light and silence. 12 hours later, rescue ships from Earth arrived at Terra Nova. They found a dead world. Where cities once stood, there was only glass. The bombardment had been so intense that sand and soil had melted and hardened into smooth, dark sheets. Nothing remained. No buildings, no trees, no bodies. 600 million human beings had lived on Terra Nova that morning. By sunset, only 200 million survived, scattered in rural areas and underground shelters. The rest were gone, vaporized, erased from existence as if they had never been born. The galaxy watched. The galaxy did nothing. Ambassador David Okonkwo stood before the Galactic Compact Council 3 days later. The council chamber was vast, a sphere carved from living crystal on the station world of Nexus Prime. Representatives of 200 species sat in floating platforms, arranged in circles around the central speaking floor. Some were ancient beyond human understanding. Others were young civilizations, like humanity, still learning their place among the stars. Okonkwo was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. Those eyes were not kind today. Today they burned with a cold fire that made several alien representatives look away. 600 million, he said. His voice echoed through the chamber. 600 million innocent people murdered in direct violation of the Compact's most sacred laws. And what has this council done? Silence answered him. You issued a statement, Okonkwo continued. You expressed concern. You called for an investigation. An investigation. His voice cracked with grief and rage. There is nothing to investigate. The Vorthax broadcast their attack on open channels. They wanted everyone to see what they did. They wanted everyone to know that humanity could be slaughtered without consequence. The Vorthax ambassador, a massive reptilian creature covered in dark scales, rose from his platform. His name was Krathvor and he showed no shame. The humans provoked us, Krathvor declared. They denied our rightful claims. They insulted our honor. We responded as any warrior species would respond. You murdered children, Okonkwo shouted. You burned hospitals and schools. There was no military target on Terra Nova. It was a civilian colony. Collateral damage, Krathvor replied calmly. Regrettable but necessary. Perhaps now humanity will learn respect. Okonkwo turned to the council's ruling species. The elders of Axiom had guided the Compact for 12,000 years. They were beings of light and energy, ancient beyond measure, wise beyond comprehension. Humanity had looked up to them since first contact. Will you act? Okonkwo asked. Will you enforce your own laws, or will you prove that the Compact is a lie? The eldest of the Axiom spoke. Its voice was gentle, almost sad. Ambassador Okonkwo, we understand your pain. But humanity is young. You do not understand the complexities of galactic politics. The Vorthax are a founding member of the Compact. Their military secures entire sectors. We cannot condemn them based on incomplete evidence. Incomplete evidence? Okonkwo stared in disbelief. You watched it happen. We watched an incident occur. The elder replied. We did not see who fired first. We cannot know the full context. These matters take time to understand. We urge humanity to seek peaceful resolution. Violence will only bring more suffering. Okonkwo stood very still. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded slowly. I understand, he said. His voice was quiet now. I understand perfectly. He walked out of the council chamber without another word. Within the hour, every human ambassador on every station had packed their belongings. Within a day, every human ship had departed compact space. Within a week, the borders of human territory were closed. Earths went silent. For 3 months, no human vessel left their remaining 16 colony worlds. No human voice answered on any communication channel. No human trader appeared at any station. It was as if humanity had simply ceased to exist. The galaxy celebrated. The Vorthax declared victory. Other aggressive species began eyeing human territory. Sensing weakness, the compact elders spoke of humanity's grief and isolation, confident that time would heal all wounds. None of them understood what was actually happening. On Earth, in bunkers buried miles beneath the surface, humanity was preparing. They were not grieving. They were not hiding. They were building. They were planning. They were becoming something that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood before a vast display screen. It showed shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, producing vessels by the thousands. It showed weapons labs creating technology that no alien species had ever imagined. It showed training camps where soldiers learned tactics drawn from 10,000 years of human warfare. Humanity had been keeping secrets for 300 years. Since first contact, they had pretended to be primitive. They had acted harmless. They had let the galaxy believe that humans were weak, stupid, and peaceful. It was all a lie. Admiral Tanaka looked at the display and smiled a terrible smile. In her hand, she held a photograph. It showed her daughter, her son, and her husband. They had lived on Terra Nova. They had died on Terra Nova. Soon, she whispered to the photograph. Soon, my loves, I will make them answer for what they did to you. I will make them all answer. Outside Earth's orbit, hidden by stealth fields that alien sensors could not penetrate, the human fleet waited. It was larger than anything the galaxy had seen. It carried weapons that broke the laws of physics. It was crewed by soldiers who had lost everything and feared nothing. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. They would never make that mistake again. Marcus Cole had been a farmer on Terra Nova. He grew wheat and corn on 50 acres of rich soil near the city of Pacific. Every morning he watched the golden sun rise over his fields. Every evening he ate dinner with his wife Sarah and their two daughters, Emma and Lily. Life was simple. Life was good. Life was everything Marcus had ever wanted. Now he stood in a training facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. He wore the gray uniform of the United Earth Defense Force. In his hands, he held a plasma rifle that could cut through starship armor. Around him, 10,000 other recruits practiced combat drills. Everyone here had lost someone on Terra Nova. Listen up, Sergeant Major Obiadami shouted. He was a massive man with shoulders like boulders and eyes that had seen too much death. You are not soldiers yet. You are angry civilians with weapons. Anger is good. Anger keeps you alive. But anger alone will not win this war. Discipline wins wars. Training wins wars. Are you ready to become warriors? Yes, Sergeant Major. The recruits shouted as one voice. Marcus had never fired a weapon before Terra Nova. He had never wanted to hurt anyone. He had been a peaceful man, content with his simple life. That man had died with his family. The man who remained felt nothing but cold purpose. 3 levels above the training facility, Fleet Admiral Yuki Tanaka met with her command staff. The war room was carved from solid granite, protected by shields that could stop a nuclear strike. Holographic displays showed every human ship, every alien fleet, every station and colony across the galaxy. Report, Tanaka said. General Wei Chang stepped forward. He commanded the ground forces. Training is ahead of schedule. 2 million soldiers will be ready within 6 weeks. 4 million within 3 months. They are the most motivated fighting force in human history. Admiral Kenji Yamamoto spoke next. He commanded the fleet. Shipyards are producing at maximum capacity. We have 1,800 capital ships ready for deployment. 3,000 more will be complete within 2 months. The new phase shift drives have been installed on all frontline vessels. Dr. Amara Osei represented the science division. Weapons testing is complete. The genetic targeting systems work perfectly. We can tune our weapons to affect only Vorthax biology. Civilian structures and other species will be completely safe. Tanaka nodded slowly. She studied the holographic map, tracing the path from Earth to Vorthax Prime. It crossed through 300 light-years of hostile space. It passed military stations that could challenge even human technology. It was a journey that would cost lives. Tell me about the compact, she said. Intelligence Director Samuel Okonkwo answered. He was the brother of the ambassador who had pleaded before the council. His brother had died 2 weeks ago, heartbroken by grief and failure. Samuel carried that grief now, along with all the others. The compact believes we are broken, he said. Their analysts predict that humans will emerge from isolation within 6 months, chastened and ready to accept whatever terms the Vorthax demand. They have already begun discussing how to divide our territory. And the other species. Most are indifferent, some are pleased. A few are watching carefully. Samuel highlighted several worlds on the display. The Koleri, the Nexians, the Ith Collective. They have been victims of Vorthax aggression themselves. They lost their own colonies and received the same worthless condemnation from the compact. They are waiting to see what we will do. Tanaka stood and walked to the main display. She placed her hand on the image of Vorthax Prime, the enemy homeworld, where 10 billion reptiles lived in comfort while human children turned to ash. For 300 years, we have hidden, she said. We looked at this galaxy and saw what it truly was. Not a community of equals, not a union of peaceful species. A jungle, a place where the strong devoured the weak and the ancient prey upon the young. She turned to face her officers. We made ourselves look weak. We pretended to be primitives just discovering the stars. We let them laugh at us, ignore us, dismiss us as harmless animals. And all the while, we were watching, learning, building. Admiral Yamamoto smiled grimly. Every technology they shared with us, we improved. Every weapon they sold us, we made better. Every treaty we signed, we studied for weaknesses. And now, General Chang asked, now we show them the truth. Tanaka pulled up a new display. It showed the battle plan, 12 simultaneous strikes across Vorthax space, hitting every major military installation at once. The Vorthax fleet is scattered across their empire. They don't expect an attack because they don't believe we can attack. They think we are farmers and merchants playing at civilization. They thought correctly, Samuel said. We were farmers and merchants. We wanted nothing but peace and trade and good lives for our children. They killed that dream when they burned Terra Nova. They created this army. They made these weapons necessary. Tanaka nodded. In 3 weeks we strike, we move fast, hit hard, and show no mercy to their military. But remember our rules of engagement. We do not attack civilians. We do not destroy cities. We do not become what they are. Some of the troops won't like that, Chang warned. They want revenge. They will have revenge, but revenge with honor. Tanaka's voice hardened. The galaxy is watching, even if they don't know it yet. How we fight this war will determine humanity's place in the stars for 1,000 years. We will be feared. We will be respected. But we will not be monsters. Am I clear? Yes, Admiral. Far below, in the training halls, Marcus Cole finished his combat drills. He had discovered something terrible about himself in these past months. He was good at violence. The movements came naturally. The weapons felt right in his hands. War flowed through his blood like water through a river. His instructor, a veteran of colonial defense forces, had noticed his talent. You're a natural, Cole. Most people freeze when they first fire at a target. You don't even blink. Marcus had said nothing. He didn't tell the instructor about the dreams. Every night, he watched Terra Nova burn. Every night, he saw Sarah's face, Emma's smile, Lily's laugh. Every night, he woke up screaming. The pain never left. It lived inside him like a second heart, beating a rhythm of grief and rage. He had learned to use it. He had learned to channel it into focus and precision. He had learned that a broken man could still be a useful tool. Tonight, like every night, he went to the memorial wall after training. It stretched for miles through the underground facility, covered with names. 600 million names. He found the section dedicated to Pacifica and traced his finger over 4 entries. Sarah Cole, Emma Cole, Lily Cole, Marcus Cole. He had added his own name beside theirs. The man he had been was dead. Only the soldier remained. I'm coming for them, he whispered to the wall. Wait for me just a little longer. I'm going to make them pay for what they took from us. And then I'll find my way back to you. In orbit above Earth, hidden by technology that bent light and fooled sensors, the human fleet waited. 1,800 warships, 2 million soldiers, weapons that could crack planets and devices that could slip through any shield. The silence was almost over. The storm was about to begin. Admiral Krathvor was enjoying his evening meal when the alarms began. He sat in his command chamber on Fortress Station 7, the largest military installation in Vorthax space. Around him, servants brought dishes of fresh meat and fermented blood wine. He had spent the day reviewing reports about human territory. The Vorthax High Command had already begun planning the invasion. With humanity broken and isolated, their remaining colonies would fall easily. Then the entire station shook like a toy in a child's hand. Report, Krathvor roared, throwing his table aside. His scales rippled with anger and sudden fear. Ships, Admiral, his tactical officer screamed. Human ships. They appeared from nowhere. Hundreds of them. Krathvor stormed onto the bridge and froze. The view screen showed something impossible. Human warships filled the space around his station. They were sleek and deadly, nothing like the clumsy freighters that humans usually flew. They moved with perfect coordination, flowing around the station like water around a stone. How Krathvor demanded, our senses should have detected them light years away. They phase shifted through normal space, the science officer said. His voice trembled. They traveled without moving. Our sensors never saw them because they were never really here until now. That's impossible. No species has that technology. The humans do. The first strike hit the station's shield generators. Krathvor watched in horror as human weapons passed through his shields as if they didn't exist. The energy simply bent around the defensive barriers and struck the hull directly. Return fire, he ordered. His gunners tried. Their plasma cannons fired at the human ships. Every shot missed. The human vessels moved in patterns that no Vorthax targeting computer could predict. They danced through space, untouchable, unstoppable. Within 10 minutes, Fortress Station 7 was dead. Its weapons were slag. Its engines were destroyed. Its shields had collapsed. Only life support remained. keeping the 20,000 Vorthax crew members alive. Krathviewer stood on his broken bridge, surrounded by fire and smoke, and watched a human ship approach. It was small, a transport vessel. It docked with the station, cutting through the hull with precise lasers. Moments later, humans walked onto his bridge. They wore black armor that seemed to drink the light. They carried weapons that glowed with restrained power. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, like a single organism with many bodies. At their head stood a young human male with dead eyes and steady hands. Admiral Krathvor, the human said, "My name is Lieutenant Marcus Cole, by order of the United Earth Defense Force. You are under arrest for war crimes against humanity. You will be treated according to the laws of war. You will receive a fair trial. You will not be harmed unless you resist." Krathvor's pride burned. You dare attack the Dominion. You are insects. We will crush you. We will burn every one of your pathetic colonies. Marcus Cole's expression didn't change. He had heard worse things in his nightmares. You already burned one. That's why we're here. Across Vorthax space, the same scene repeated 12 times. Human fleets appeared at every major military installation simultaneously. They struck with perfect precision, destroying weapons and engines while leaving life support intact. They captured admirals and generals, recording everything for galactic broadcast. In the Galactic Compact Council chamber, chaos erupted. Representatives of 200 species watched the battle footage in stunned silence. The Vorthax ambassador demanded immediate intervention. He called for the Compact's defense fleet to destroy the human invaders. The elders of Axiom hesitated. "This changes nothing," Ambassador Krathmore insisted. "The humans attacked first. This is an act of war against a founding member of the Compact." The humans responded to an attack. The Kalari ambassador said quietly. She was a tall being with silver skin and 6 arms. Her people had lost 3 colonies to Vorthax aggression decades ago. They sought justice through your council. You refused them. What did you expect them to do? We expected them to accept their place. Krathmore roared. "They are primitives. Savages. They should have submitted to the Dominion's rightful authority." "They do not seem primitive to me," the Nexian observer noted. "Its body was made of living crystal that caught the light. Their technology appears quite advanced. More advanced than ours. More advanced than yours." The elder of Axiom finally spoke. "We will dispatch a peacekeeping force. This conflict must end before it destabilizes the region." The words were still hanging in the air when a new message arrived. It came from Fleet Admiral Yuki Tanaka, broadcast on every channel in the galaxy. Her face appeared on the council's main display. Behind her, the bridge of her flagship hummed with activity. Her voice was calm and cold. "To the Galactic Compact and all who watch. 3 months ago, the Vorthax Dominion murdered 600 million innocent human beings. They used banned weapons against a civilian colony. They committed genocide while you watched and did nothing." She paused, letting the words sink in. "We asked for justice. You offered us condemnation. We asked for protection. You offered us sympathy. We asked you to enforce your own laws. You told us we were too young to understand." Her eyes hardened. "Now we will teach you something about humanity. We are the children of Earth, a world that tried to kill us every day for 4 billion years. We survived ice ages and meteor strikes and plagues and predators. We crawled out of the mud and reached for the stars. We are the descendants of survivors, and we do not forget, we do not forgive, and we do not surrender." The display shifted to show 12 Vorthax military installations, all disabled and captured. The Vorthax military has been neutralized. Their fleet is scattered and running. Their admirals are in our custody. We have not harmed a single civilian. We have not destroyed a single city. We are not monsters like them. Tanaka's voice grew quiet but somehow more dangerous. "We are coming for Vorthax Prime, not to destroy it, not to burn it like they burned Terra Nova. We are coming for justice. The beings who ordered the attack on our people will answer for their crimes, and when this is over, the galaxy will remember. Humanity protects its own, and humanity remembers its enemies." The broadcast ended. In the council chamber, silence reigned. The Vorthax ambassador had gone pale beneath his scales. The other species looked at each other with new understanding. Humanity was not broken. Humanity was not primitive. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. On the bridge of a captured Vorthax station, Marcus Cole watched the broadcast with his squad. One of his soldiers, a woman who had lost her husband and son on Terra Nova, stood beside him. "We're really doing it," she said softly. "We're making them pay." Marcus nodded, but his eyes remained empty. Revenge wouldn't bring back Sarah and the girls. Justice wouldn't fill the hole in his chest. Nothing would ever make things right again. But he would see this through. He owed the dead that much. "Move out," he ordered. "We have a homeworld to capture." Vorthax Prime had never known fear. For 10,000 years, this world had been the heart of an empire. Its cities reached toward purple skies. Its armies conquered star systems. Its people believed themselves supreme among all living things. They were the Dominion, the Masters, the Chosen Ones. Now human ships darkened their sun. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the Remembrance, humanity's greatest warship. Through the viewport she could see the Vorthax homeworld turning slowly in space. 10 billion lives hung in the balance. 10 billion beings who had cheered when Terra Nova burned, who had celebrated the death of human children, who had laughed at humanity's grief. She could end them all with a single order. Fleet status, she said. Admiral Yamamoto answered. All ships in position. Ground forces ready for deployment. Orbital weapons charged and locked. We await your command. Tanaka closed her eyes. She thought of her husband's smile. She thought of her daughter's laugh. She thought of her son asking if he could stay up late to watch the stars. They were gone now, turned to dust on a world that no longer existed. She opened her eyes. Broadcast on all channels. Let them hear this. Her voice reached every corner of Vorthax Prime. It played in government chambers and military barracks, in homes and schools and hospitals. 10 billion Vorthax stopped what they were doing and listened to the human admiral speak. People of the Dominion, your military has fallen. Your admirals are in our custody. Your fleets are destroyed or scattered beyond recall. You are defenseless before us, on the planet below. Panic spread. Families grabbed what they could and ran for shelters. Children cried without understanding. The old and sick waited for death. We could do to you what you did to us, Tanaka continued. We have the power. We have the right. You murdered our children, our parents, our loves. You burned our world and laughed while it died. Justice would let us burn yours in return. She paused. The bridge was completely silent. But we are not you. The words hung in the air like a held breath. We did not come here to destroy. We came for justice. The leaders who ordered the attack on Terra Nova will surrender themselves to human custody. They will face trial before a galactic court. They will answer for their crimes. On Vorthax Prime, the High Council listened with growing disbelief. They had expected annihilation. They had prepared for extinction. The Dominion will pay reparations to the survivors of Terra Nova. You will fund the rebuilding of our colony world. You will provide medical care for those wounded in your attack. You will remember what you did for the rest of your history. Supreme Commander Krathvex, the being who had ordered the attack, sat in his bunker deep beneath the capital city. He had thought himself safe. He had thought the humans would never reach him. Now he listened to their admiral offer terms that any reasonable being would accept, terms that would leave his people alive, terms that would preserve his civilization. He considered refusing. He considered ordering his remaining forces to fight to the last soldier. He considered taking as many humans with him as possible. Then the human admiral said something that changed his mind forever. We know what you expected, Tanaka said. You expected us to become monsters. You expected rage and destruction and genocide. That's what you would do. That's what you did. But we are not the Vorthax Dominion. We are humanity, and we carry something you have never understood. Her voice softened but lost none of its power. We carry memory. We remember everyone who came before us. We remember their struggles and their sacrifices and their dreams. We remember what they hoped we would become. They did not raise us to be destroyers. They raised us to be better than our enemies. In orbit, the human fleet waited. Their weapons could crack the planet's crust. Their soldiers could sweep across the surface like a cleansing fire. They had the power of gods, and they held it in check. You have 1 hour to respond. If your leadership surrenders, your people will live. If you refuse, we will land ground forces and take them by force. But even then, we will not harm civilians. We will not burn hospitals. We will not murder children. We will never be what you are. The broadcast ended. Supreme Commander Krathvex sat in the silence that followed. Around him, his staff waited for orders. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to run. All were terrified. They could destroy us, his second-in-command said. Why don't they? Krathvex had no answer. In his entire life, he had never shown mercy to an enemy. The concept was foreign to Vorthax culture. The weak served the strong. The defeated were enslaved or destroyed. That was the natural order. Yet here were these humans, these primitives, these animals they had dismissed as harmless. They held absolute power and refused to use it for destruction. They demanded justice instead of revenge. They offered survival instead of extinction. It was the most terrifying thing Krathvex had ever witnessed. Prepare a surrender broadcast, he said finally. I will not let my people die for my pride. 40 minutes later, the Vorthax High Council surrendered unconditionally. Human transports descended on the capital city. Soldiers in black armor landed in perfect formation. They moved through the streets with weapons ready but fingers off triggers. Civilians watched from windows, expecting slaughter. Instead, the humans secured government buildings. They arrested war criminals. They set up medical stations for wounded Vorthax who had hurt themselves fleeing. They shared food and water with refugees. Marcus Cole led his squad through the central district. His orders were clear. Protect the civilian hospital. Prevent panic. Show the galaxy what humanity was made of. He found himself standing guard at the entrance while Vorthax children stared at him through the windows. They were small and scaled and terrified. They looked nothing like Emma and Lily, but they were children, just like his daughters had been. One of them, braver than the others, crept close to the door. She couldn't have been more than 5 years old in human terms. Her scales were bright green, and her eyes were huge with fear. "Are you going to kill us?" she asked in broken trade language. Marcus looked at her. He thought about Terra Nova. He thought about the fire falling from the sky. He thought about his daughters, who would probably ask the same question in their final moments. "No," he said. His voice was rough. "I'm here to make sure no one hurts you. But we hurt your people. Your leaders did. Your soldiers did. You didn't. You're just a kid." He knelt down to meet her eyes. "I had 2 daughters. They were about your age. They died when your leaders attacked our world." The Vorthax child trembled. "I'm sorry." Those 2 words struck Marcus harder than any weapon. He felt something crack inside him, something he had held frozen since Terra Nova. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Now go back inside. Stay with your family. Everything is going to be okay." He watched her run back into the hospital. Around him, his squad secured the perimeter. Above him, human ships maintained their silent vigil. The galaxy was watching, and for the first time in history, they saw what humanity truly was. Not the weak primitives they had dismissed, not the vengeful monsters they had expected, but something far more complex, something far more dangerous, something that remembered its dead and fought for its future and still found room for mercy in hearts full of grief. Admiral Tanaka watched from orbit as the occupation proceeded without incident. Not a single civilian was harmed. Not a single atrocity was committed. Her soldiers had fought harder against their own rage than they had against the Vorthax military. "We did it," Admiral Yamamoto said. "Justice without massacre. Victory without genocide." "This is just the beginning," Tanaka replied. "Now comes the harder part. Now we build something that lasts." She turned away from the view. The war was over. The work was just beginning. 1 year later, the galaxy had changed. The Galactic Compact Council chamber looked the same as always. A vast sphere of living crystal filled with floating platforms. 200 species still gathered here to debate and negotiate and scheme. But something fundamental was different. Humanity had a seat at the high table. Ambassador Maya Chen stood at the central podium. She was 9 years old now, the youngest ambassador in galactic history. She had survived Terra Nova. She had lost her parents in the fire that fell from the sky. She had been chosen by the survivors to speak for them. Because sometimes the galaxy needed to see the face of what it had allowed to happen. Behind her stood Admiral Tanaka and General Chang. Their uniforms bore new medals and old grief. They had won the war. Now they had to win the peace. 1 year ago, Maya said, her voice clear and strong despite her age, "I watched my world burn. I watched 600 million people die. I watched the galaxy do nothing." The council chamber was absolutely silent. "Today, I stand before you as proof that humanity survives. We do not just survive. We grow stronger. We remember, and we will never again be helpless." She paused, looking around at the assembled species. Some looked away in shame. Others met her gaze with new respect. A few still harbored resentment. The Vorthax war criminals have been tried and sentenced. The Dominion is paying reparations. Terra Nova is being rebuilt. These are good things. These are just things. But they are not enough. Maya lifted her chin, and in that moment, she looked far older than her years. "The Galactic Compact failed us. Your laws meant nothing. Your protection was a lie. We learned a terrible lesson. In this galaxy, only the strong survive. So we became strong." She gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. They showed human ships patrolling disputed borders. They showed human soldiers training with allied species. They showed human technology being shared with former victims of aggression. But we also learned something else. Strength without mercy is just another word for tyranny. We had the power to destroy the Vorthax completely. We chose not to. We had the power to build an empire on fear. We chose peace instead. The Kalari ambassador nodded slowly. Her people had signed a defense treaty with humanity. So had the Nexians and the Ith Collective and a dozen other species who had suffered from Vorthax expansion. Humanity offers the galaxy a choice. Maya continued. "We can be your partners or your protectors. We can share our technology and our strengths, where we can build a new alliance, one where the weak are defended and the innocent are protected." She looked directly at the elders of Axiom. "Or we can remember who stood by while our children died. We can remember every slight and every betrayal. We can become what you feared we would become." The eldest of the Axiom finally spoke. Its voice was heavy with something that might have been regret. "Young one, we have watched many species rise and fall. We have seen empires born and die. We thought we understood the patterns of history." It paused. "We were wrong about humanity. You are unlike anything we have encountered in 12,000 years. You carry rage and mercy in equal measure. You remember your enemies but forgive your friends. You fight without hatred and show strength through restraint." The elder's form flickered, a sign of deep emotion. "We failed you. We failed our own principles. For that, we offer not excuses, but change. The compact will be reformed. New protections will be enacted. No species will ever again face what humanity faced alone." Maya nodded slowly. "Words are easy. Elder, show us with actions." Far from the council chamber, on a world halfway across the galaxy, Marcus Cole walked through fields of young wheat. Terra Nova was coming back to life. Human engineers had worked miracles with Warthak's reparation money and technology from a dozen allied species. The glass plains were being broken up and mixed with new soil. The atmosphere was being cleansed. Cities were rising from the ashes. 200 million survivors had returned to rebuild their home. Millions more had come from other human worlds to help. The colony would never be what it was, but it would live again. Marcus stopped at a small hill overlooking a valley. This was where his farm had stood. This was where his family had lived and laughed and dreamed. He had planted new wheat here last spring. Now it swayed in the gentle breeze, golden and perfect. "I couldn't save you," he said to the empty air. "I couldn't protect you. I couldn't even bury you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn photograph. Sarah smiled at him from the image. Emma and Lily made silly faces. "But I kept my promise. I made them pay. I made sure it could never happen again." He touched the photograph gently. "And I didn't become a monster. I came close. God, I came so close. But in the end, I remembered what you would have wanted." He stood there for a long time, watching his wheat grow on the grave of his old life. Eventually he heard footsteps behind him. A young Vorthax woman approached hesitantly. She wore the uniform of the Reparation Corps of Vorthax volunteers who had come to Terra Nova to help rebuild. "Farmer Cole?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, ashamed. "The irrigation system in Sector 7 needs adjustment. The elders said you would know how to fix it." Marcus studied her. She was probably born after the attack. She carried guilt for crimes she hadn't committed, working to repair damage she hadn't caused. "Come on," he said. "I'll show you." They walked together through the new fields. Human and Vorthax former enemies, now working side by side to grow food from ashes. On the observation deck of an orbital station above Terra Nova, Admiral Tanaka watched the planet turn. Ambassador Chen Wei, the man who had first pleaded for humanity before the compact, stood beside her. He had returned from retirement for this moment. "We won," Chen Wei said. "Did we?" Tanaka asked. "We're alive. We're respected. We're feared. The galaxy will never ignore humanity again." Tanaka nodded slowly. 600 million people died to teach the galaxy that lesson. Was it worth it? Chen Wei had no answer. There was no answer. Some prices were too high to calculate. "What happens now?" he asked instead. Tanaka looked at Terra Nova, watching the lights of new cities flicker to life as night rolled across the surface. "Now we remember," she said. "We remember what we lost. We remember what we almost became. And we remember what we chose to be instead." She turned away from the view. The galaxy underestimated humanity. They thought we were weak, primitive, harmless. They were wrong. But that's not the important part. What is? They expected us to become monsters when we gained power. They expected revenge and genocide and empire. We proved them wrong about that too. She smiled, and there was sorrow and pride mixed in her expression. That's humanity's real message to the galaxy. It's not that we can destroy our enemies. It's that we choose not to. It's that we can hold absolute power and still show mercy. Below them, Terra Nova continued its slow rebirth. Children played in parks built on ashes. Farmers planted crops in soil that had once been glass. Life continued, stubborn and unstoppable. Humanity had been underestimated. Humanity had answered with fire and justice and restraint. And in the end, humanity had chosen to be better than its enemies. That was the legacy of Terra Nova. That was the truth the galaxy would never forget. That was what it meant to be human.